Okay, so I've got 2 lab reports, 1 essay, and 5 problem sets, all due tomorrow morning. Right now it's 9 p.m, so I've got about 12 hours to do all of that. According to my calculations, it is enough time to do everything and even watch a couple of episodes of PewDiePie Hardcore Minecraft video series. Yeah, sounds about right. I'm gonna start with PewDiePie. Does this sound familiar? That, my friend, is a classical example of procrastination. And it surely cost me quite a number of nerve cells during my first years in the university. If you occasionally find yourself in a similar boat, then I have amazing news for you. Because in this video, I will share with you my top 3 secret strategies for coping with procrastination before it's too late. If you're ready, buckle up. I'd like to thank the sponsor of today's video. Shortform is a platform for finding relevant books and extracting key ideas while reading them. They offer book guides, which are super detailed summaries of the book, enhanced by interactive exercises and notes, written by the author of the guide, containing relevant ideas from other books and research papers on the topic. Shortform library covers a great variety of genres, from science and education to productivity and self-improvement. I personally use this tool and I can't recommend it enough for anyone who wants to discover relevant readings and process the knowledge more effectively. If you would like to join me, use the link down in the description to get 5 days of unlimited access and 20% discount on annual membership. My name's Artem, I'm a computational neuroscience student and researcher. Here we talk about the brain, both the theory of how it works under the hood, as well as practice of how to study and learn more effectively. If you're interested, consider subscribing to the channel not to miss anything. Procrastination happens when something is really uncomfortable for your brain, and so it tries to move away from that. And it's different for everyone. For example, this piece of reading is particularly difficult. The upcoming report is extra long and tedious to write, or you don't even know where to begin solving the nasty problem. All those things cause mental irritations, which your brain doesn't like, so it just sweeps them under the rug until the very last minute. And so the ultimate advice would be to look that thing in the eye, without beating yourself up for the past episodes of procrastination, identify the exact cause, and come up with a strategy to eliminate it from your life. For example, if you repeatedly find yourself procrastinating on problem sets because they feel too difficult, it may be a good sign that you lack some prerequisites for the course you're taking. So it's probably best to talk to your teacher about it and maybe switch the level of difficulty by joining another group. Now, I understand that it's easier said than done, and sometimes it's impossible to eliminate the cause, even if you manage to identify it. That's why in the rest of the video, I will talk about 3 powerful tips to make even the most dreadful tasks much more bearable. Let's start with the first one. The absolute killer, number 1 strategy which fantastically works for me is what I like to call the Yin Yang technique. Here is how it works. This is Yin Yang, the symbol of harmony and balance. And one interpretation of it is that there is always some amount of good in the bad things and some amount of bad in the good. And you can think of the thing you are procrastinating on as this black left half. All the black is what scares you and puts your brain off from doing the task. It's things like the problem set is too difficult, that report is a waste of time, the essay is due tomorrow and I don't even know where to begin. And that black portion is all your brain sees by default. But the good thing is, you can make a conscious decision to identify the white spot, remember there is always one, and focus on that. You can play a game with yourself, where you will try to identify at least one way in how you will personally benefit from doing the task. Let's say you have to prepare a presentation on a topic which doesn't really interest you and you view it as a waste of time initially. Then you can say, okay, I know the topic is not the most fascinating out there, but this is a nice opportunity for me to sharpen the skill of public speaking, so I should really nail it. If this is a very long and tedious lab report that you don't want to do, view it as a way to practice creative writing, doing literature reviews, note-taking, whatever you feel would be most important to you personally, and focus on that aspect. And finally, my personal favorite. If this is a skill, a subject, or a topic which doesn't have any apparent relations to your personal interests at the current moment, if you feel like it's not the best investment of your time and you're better off doing something else, but this is a task that really has to be done, here is what you can do. Run a thought experiment in your head and search for potential scenarios where that thing will actually be useful in the future, how it could potentially relate to your aspirations. For example, last semester, I really didn't want to study biochemistry because I thought, I'm a neuroscientist for God's sake. I want to write code and analyze neuronal activity. I don't need to learn your amino acid structures. But what really helped me at this point is to imagine how I apply the knowledge of amino acids to protein folding, designing the proteins with specific properties, essentially pioneering the field of protein computing. So if you don't have any motivation to learn a particular topic, just imagine yourself winning a Nobel Prize, standing there giving a talk and mentioning how that very topic was essential for the discovery. Or in other words, try to find a way to relate your long-term goals, ambitions, priorities, scientific interests to the activity you're dreading, and then chances are you will magically feel excited to do it. This is the idea I heard about from Cal Newport, and I really resonated with it. Basically, all the things you do as a knowledge worker, whether you are a student, postdoc, professor, engineer, writer, all of your top priority activities are some sorts of creative endeavors. It's things like debugging the code, grappling a concept, deriving an equation, writing an article. For those things, it's impossible to plan in advance how things will go and how much time it will take for you to achieve the end goal. For example, the amount of time it takes to write a good essay depends on a myriad of variables. Your inspiration, the exact topic. In the middle of the writing, you might realize that the whole thing needs to be restructured or that you want to research a particular point deeper. You can't schedule an insight. So at about 1 p.m. today, I will have a sudden revelation and come up with the greatest introduction to my essay possible. Yeah, sounds good. I'm gonna put that into my calendar. You see, it's a terrible idea to base your goals on the things you cannot control, because then you will get discouraged and inevitably dive straight into procrastination. What you can control, though, is the amount of time you dedicate to doing a particular activity. That's why it's good to switch to a different, time-based mindset, to phrase your goals not in the way, do the problem set today, but rather spend 1 hour working on the problem set. This phrasing actually makes a huge difference. You can even take some weight off your shoulders and give the task a name which makes it sound less dreadful. For example, just say, I will bang my head against the wall for 1 hour trying to debug this code. Doesn't look so scary now, does it? Finally, a third tip which is closely related to the previous one is to space it out in time. Throughout the last semester, we were expected to write really long lab reports on quite a number of subjects. You know how you first have to do some work, like setting up electrophoresis to separate some proteins. And then, as if that's not enough, you are expected to write like 10 pages with theoretical outline, detailed description of the experiment, results and their discussion. Granted, deadlines for these reports usually had 2 or 3 weeks between each other. But who on earth would start doing the assignment 2 weeks in advance? I mean, come on. So I would usually begin doing them when they remained a couple of days before the deadline, and it always turned into a frustrating mess because there had always been things which take up more time than expected. Consequently, I had to give up some of the things I'm passionate about, like YouTube or lab research, in favor for writing these ridiculously long pages. After a few months in this regime and a couple of inevitable burnouts, I realized that it's not the way to go. So I introduced the following practice. Every other day, I would block out chunks of time in my calendar between 30 minutes and an hour, titled SRW, which stands for Stupid Report Writing. During these blocks of time, I would intentionally work on whatever report is due next. And it's really time-centered. It doesn't matter how much stuff I actually get done, whether it's 2 pages or 2 sentences. 30 minutes have passed, I'm out of here. One rule though, those 30 or 45 or 60 minutes have to be focused and undistracted work with the report or whatever task you want to, being the only target of your attention. If you don't write anything down because you are researching a hypothesis to explain your results, it's one thing. If, however, you don't get anything done because out of those 45 minutes, you spent 40 scrolling through TikTok, it's completely different. It doesn't count. Introducing this type of practice was one of the best decisions. Because, first of all, those 30, 45 or even 60 minutes is very achievable and painless, so the brain doesn't subconsciously dread it too much. And because the process is spaced out in time, it gives you more freedom in each individual day. I do 1 hour in the morning and that's it. I'm done for the day and I'm free to do anything I want, whether it's YouTube, coding or reading. So just to recap, today we talked about the Yin Yang technique and how there is always something good in the bad. We also discussed the benefits of the time-based approach and spacing out these chunks in time. If some of those points resonate with you, give them a go. Don't hesitate to leave your feedback and suggestions for the things you want me to talk about down in the comment section. If you liked the video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and press the like button. Stay tuned for more interesting stuff coming up. Goodbye and thanks for the interesting knowledge.